Good morning, families. Welcome back to the American Family Survival Network. I'm your host, Jeffrey Snipes. Today is Saturday, September 24th. What's been going on in Charlotte is far more important than Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's divorce. This is by Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog. While one of America's largest cities is being ripped in two, most Americans appear to be far more interested in the drama surrounding Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's divorce. As Charlotte braces for a third night of rioting and violence, the mainstream media is full of headlines such as Welp, the Jolie-Pitt divorce got real depressing real fast, and even the Dalai Lama has something to say about Brangelina's divorce. Yes, the Brangelina divorce is an important cultural moment that illustrates our ongoing moral and social decay, but what is going on in Charlotte is far more important. Trust in our most important institutions is deeply broken, and Americans are increasingly choosing chaos and violence over peaceful discourse. For a very long time, I've been warning that these kinds of riots were coming, and thin veneer of civilization that we all take for granted every day is starting to rapidly disappear. There had been hope that things would settle down after the first couple of nights of chaos in Charlotte. But as I write this article, protesters have already massed downtown despite a midnight curfew imposed by Mayor Jennifer Roberts. Demonstrators chanted "Release the tape" while briefly blocking an intersection near Bank of America headquarters in the heart of the city's business district. They then continued marching as police officers watched. Members of the National Guard carrying rifles were also deployed in front of office buildings to head off another night of violence in the city on edge. Mayor Jennifer Roberts has signed a curfew order from midnight until 6 a.m., despite Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Chief Kerr Putney saying he saw no need for a curfew. Personally, I can definitely understand why a curfew was imposed. Nobody should want to see a repeat of the senseless violence of the past two nights. At one point on Wednesday night, enraged protesters actually attempted to toss a news photographer into a roaring fire. Among the many reports of violence from the Charlotte, North Carolina unrest Wednesday night was one particular shocking example. Rioters tried to throw a news photographer into a burning fire. Local CW affiliate WCCB was on the scene and tweeted out images of the fire and their initial report. If you are protesting for justice, you aren't going to get it by trying to burn people alive. I don't know how anyone out there can possibly justify the kinds of things that we've been seeing in Charlotte. In addition to trying to throw an innocent photographer into a fire, the protesters, quote-unquote, have also engaged in other forms of violence that are extremely alarming. The following originally comes from Paul Joseph Watson. Stealing and looting cash registers from local businesses is not a legitimate form of protest. A protester shooting another protester is not a legitimate form of protest. Physically attacking reporters is not a legitimate form of protest. Throwing rocks off bridges at passing vehicles full of families is not a legitimate form of protest. Beating up innocent people in parking lots because they're white is not a legitimate form of protest. Smashing up apartment windows where black people live to quote-unquote protest in favor of Black Lives Matter is not a legitimate form of protest. Trashing your own neighborhood is not a legitimate form of protest. Looting the Charlotte Hornets team store so you can steal basketball merchandise is not a legitimate form of protest. Attempting to hijack cars and terrify their innocent occupants is not a legitimate form of protest. These sorts of things are not supposed to happen in Charlotte. We've already seen major rioting in impoverished cities such as Baltimore, Ferguson, Milwaukee, and Baton Rouge. But Charlotte is supposed to be different. Over the past decade, Charlotte has been one of the more prosperous major cities in America. Just check out this excerpt from an NBC News editorial. Charlotte isn't a crumbling urban ghetto. Charlotte is the place you move when you want sunshine, and a shiny new house, and a sparkling new subdivision. Charlotte is a prosperous city where you not only can get a job in the bustling and very clean uptown area, but that job affords you wonderful weekend getaways to a cozy cabin in the Appalachian Mountains, but an hour away, or to the sandy shores of the Atlantic, also an easy drive from the Queen City. Charlotte is a magnet for the young and old alike, and its growth is the envy of not a few urban mayors. It matters that Charlotte has been celebrated by U.S. News and World Reports as one of the best places to live in the entire nation. It filled Charlotte's residents with pride when other media outlets heralded their city as one of the very best places to raise a family in the entire state of North Carolina. If rioting like this can happen in Charlotte, then it could happen just about anywhere. Now is a time when we need to forgive, come together, and learn to work with one another again. I really like what Donald Trump had to say about this. We all have to walk a mile in someone else's shoes and see things through their eyes, and then get to work fixing our very wounded country, Trump said. Pointing to the violent protest over a police-involved shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina, Trump said, "Our country looks bad to the world, especially when we are supposed to be the world's leader. How can we lead when we can't even control our own cities?" he asked. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of calls for love and forgiveness. Instead, most of the discussion is focused on anger, hatred, strife, and discord. A house divided cannot stand, and America is more divided today than I have ever seen it in my entire life.